Hey, what is up, guys? This is Ivan from getivan.com. I'd like to welcome you to a case study on using Scrapebox YP Scraper and Pullover's macro recorder to automatically um, to scrape business listings from Yellow Page on autopilot, right? So you can sort of scrape the entire nation, but it's a lot easier to target different clusters of locations and then have a bunch of instances of scraping program targeting those things at the same time. So here's an instance that I already have going, and it's got a pretty good number of records already in there. And so let's go over the settings here in YP Scraper, and then we'll get started. So opening up Yellow Pages. And by the way, I'll tell you about the VM after I tell you about the scraper here, but you open up that premium plugin, YP Scraper, go over to, the window, and load up your proxies. I've got 40 proxies right now from Change My IP shared proxies. I used Proxy Rotator before, but it didn't work very well with this YP Scraper, which is unfortunate because it works pretty well with Scrapebox generally, but this YP Scraper stuff that they've got it doesn't work very well. I mean, in terms of how the proxies work in their program, might have something to do with Yellow Pages, but I decided to grab some shared IPs instead, and it turns out it looks like it's working better than what I was using before. So you're gonna load those up, check that use, select your definition. YEL is the UK, .ca is Canada, .au is Australia, and then .com is the US. You don't need to mess with any of these settings. You can if you want to. Then you'll just click this here, and you can see use all, but in my last case study, it took over 2 weeks for this program to scrape from the entire US. When it was finished, it did result in over 500,000 records, but it's just too long of a wait. So let's go to user locations. Then you click the E and you can drop down your locations in this area. I'm going to go ahead and delete what's in here and click apply. And once you've done that, you can type your keyword in and make sure and click start once you get to that point. But I have my connection set at 30, so I don't want every single proxy to be being used, right? And then 15 and 15 timeouts, and then 3 proxy retries, 100 results per location. So pretty basic kind of settings. I could even lower the connections, given the fact that I'm going to do 100 different instances pulling from the same shared IPs. But we'll just go ahead and leave it at 30, because this thing does not really work like most things work. It's kind of an unusual creature. The people at Scrapebox really need to improve this premium plugin because it doesn't work the way it should. And I've talked with them at length. I've exchanged like 20 something or emails or so with them, and they just have basically said it's not really a priority for them. But that was last year, so who knows? Maybe we'll see something in the future. But let me go ahead and close this. So the way it works is we're doing a macro from here to here, going into the program, then coming over to this notepad. I'm gonna not save this. I'm gonna open it again in another instance here, and dragging the top 50 keywords there, so the third from the bottom, and copying them over into the YP scraper, deleting the ones you've already copied, and it's rinse and repeat. So we're doing about a 60-second macro, less than 60 seconds, and then we're having it loop about 98 times. So it'll take a little while for the program to build those scraping instances up, and then you can wait a few hours and then harvest your file. So let's get started. Show you how it's done. So open up your pullovers macro creator. Some things you need to do before you get started with your macro. And just a quick disclaimer, I know a lot of people or some people like to criticize this way of going about things, but for those of us who don't know how to code our own scripts and programs and things like that, this is really awesome. I'm learning how to code slowly, but until I learn how to make my own programs, it's really nice to be able to just sort of do this kind of jerry rig. So I'm all about it. Let's put 98 here in the loop section. I'm going to put, if you're starting from scratch, then you're going to put 99 because your first instance will not be included, right? I've already got one open, so I'm going to do 98 there in that little area. And then over here in options, you need to come to settings, go to playback, and check off return mouse after playback. Make sure that's checked. Then go to defaults and make sure that mouse coordinates is set to screen. If you don't have this set to screen, then none of your macros will work properly because it'll be operating from a window. And so it's very different. Let's go ahead and click OK. Then you'll click this record button, and it basically says you can hit F9 to start and stop recording and F10 to start a new recording. You just need to use F9 really. So I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to come over here and open this notepad up, make sure it's ready to go. Make sure that nothing is highlighted or that will create problems. So click a couple of times. I'm going to click over here, make sure that this is highlighted, and then I'm going to hit F9. Cool. Now we're recording. I'm going to click a couple of times there, click on Premium Plugins, and then YP Scraper. Then I'm going to do the drop down to yellowpages.com. Then I'm going to do this drop down for user locations. Then I'm going to click over here a couple of times and then click at the top, shift click to the third from the bottom. Make sure that you're to the right, or you could cut off a new phrase. Control X, delete. Then I'm going to click over here on this active window and then click E. And then I'm going to click up here a couple of times, right click, select all, delete, and then Control V to paste, apply. Keyword is going to be label printing company, and then start, click, F9. So you have to make sure that you're coming over to the right of the third from the bottom. If you do it here, then new keywords that come up could be cut off. You could have some sloppiness built in there. When you open up that sheet there, you got to make sure you right click, select all, because for some reason Control A is not working in there. It does work when I just do it myself, but in the script it causes problems, and we may even see that it doesn't work here. So we're about to debug it and see what we can find, so when you're ready to debug your script, you want to put it in windowed mode, and or let's see here. Let's go ahead and export it to auto hotkey, because I think that's, well, let me just cover auto hotkey. So if you want to, you can export it to auto hotkey, where you can run it as an executable. So there are other ways that you can do this, right? You can just run an executable from auto hotkey and it'll just go without having to have the pullovers project open, And so you just have to click this button here for AHK, make sure that this stop is checked and this pause is checked so that you can stop it if you need to. And then you make sure create exe file is checked, come over to options, make sure that screen is there for chord mode or coordinates mode or whatever you want to call it. You could speed it up a little bit, but you might risk misclicks. So if you're going really slow and you just want to make sure that your routine is perfect, then you could, of course, go back in there and speed it up a little bit, you know. So then once you're done there, you just click export. And once you do, I had to turn off Windows Defender mode because they viewed the exe as a piece of malware. So once you do that, it should be on the desktop there, or it should be on the desktop. I didn't name it, that's why. So let's file save as YP scraper, and then the keyword is what I like to do. Let's replace that. Let's try the AHK export again. Boom, successful. Close, minimize, and then there it is. This is the AHK file, script file. I'm pretty sure it works the same. I'm not really sure though. Not absolutely sure. This is the exe file, so you can basically double click. It'll show up in the lower right there in background processes, and all you have to do is use your hotkeys to activate it. I don't need to do that though because I've got pullovers open. So I'm going to debug it with pullovers right now. Let's open up that text file, select this here, put it in windowed mode, and I'm going to hit F3 and then move my mouse out of the active window. So there it goes. It's a little slow, looks like, because of my first clicks, but you can see here that my mouse is available to me on my PC, but the script is still running in the background there over in the virtual machine. I forgot to mention the VM earlier. It's a preemptible VPS or virtual machine on Google Cloud. So preemptible instances, they only last for 24 hours, but they're much cheaper, and you get access to a higher level of processing power. So this VM is 4-core processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and it only lasts 24 hours. But the beauty of it is that even though it gets killed in a day, your disk drive stays active. So all the programs you installed on that hard drive they're still there. So you can always create a new VM and point it to the hard drive, and so you'll pay less for more processing power, but it's kind of made for this purpose, for flash fire scraping and what have you. You don't necessarily need things to be running 24/7, right? You can just sort of it's like a churn and burn type of build. So I don't know how the billing works entirely, like if the shell of the VM you still get charged for it, or if just like an inactive VM, or if they continue to charge you for Windows on a disk. I'm not exactly sure, because the way that you get charged for Windows in Google Cloud, they is based on the processing power of the VM. So every time you link it up to a virtual machine, it may scale anyways. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. The disk this is not even an SSD. I did that by accident. The disk is only like $2 a month, really cheap. But then the Windows server scales and costs based on the processing power of what you're trying to use. And so last time I calculated it, it was like $5 for 24 hours, which is a lot. But you have to think about it from a, like you're only paying what you use for kind of angle. You're paying $5 to use a really powerful virtual machine for a day. You can do a lot of intensive scraping with something like that. And so it is more cost effective when you think of it like that, because it's not like most of the time when I do scraping or various other things, it's only like in batches. It's not like it's almost a job to keep a VPS active 24/7. Like unless you maybe make some sort of script that just constantly pulls new information from a Google Sheet or something like that. So there's a lot of potential here. So yeah, that's just a little bit of background on the virtual machine stuff that I was doing. Did it freeze? There it goes. Let's see. It looks like it's doing well though. Select all and paste. Yeah, looks like it's doing just fine. And so I'll just let this run. You don't want to minimize it. There may be a way to close out the remote desktop connection, and it still runs. But I haven't done this in like a year, so I'm not really sure. I don't remember what I was looking at to be able to do that. So I do know for sure though that you can just click on other things, and if the window stays open in the background, it will continue to go, and you can just continue using your computer as usual, right? While that scraping goes on. So I don't know how long it took that macro to run, but let's say it took 60 seconds. So 60 seconds, which is a minute. So you could basically just say 100 minutes for 100 windows, right? So that would be an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes or so. So, right, yeah, hour and 40 minutes. So within about 2 hours, all of that building will be finished, and then you can wait about 4 hours from that point, and within about 4 hours or so, I found you can, after the last one, you can basically close everything. And at that point, you'll need to do something like, I used to have a program that kills all of a certain executable, and I don't remember what it's called, but I found this guide from LifeWire here using command prompt. You can do this command called task kill and then file name exe. So let's see, what does T do? Make sure any child processor code. So I haven't tested this yet, but I'm pretty sure this will work on the VM. So task kill space /im space, and then you could just find the file name for that YP scraper in Task Manager, and then /t. So that'll kill all of the YP scrapers, and then you can go into the YP scraper or the Scrapebox folder to plugins to YP scraper to autosaves, and you can collect all of those that way. Let me show you in command prompt real quick. Let me open a new command prompt and show you here. When you're in a file, looking at your scrapes, you can basically do CD to change the destination, and then you can paste the location of that file. So when you're in File Manager, you can just come up to that area and copy the location and then paste it in the command prompt with CD. If you're in a different hard drive, you can do the drive plus colon, and then you'll be in that drive. So just like that. And once you're in the right file, you can do copy space asterisk dot txt is how they save, and then I do like 0 combine.txt, and so you can combine all of those files into a file called 0 combine.txt using this command. And once you do that, you'll have all of those records from that niche that you've scraped in a single text file. And then from there, you can use Excel or upload them into Google Sheets or however you want to do it. I've never dealt with a file that's larger than like 100,000. So that one that I scraped at 500,000, for example, I wouldn't even know how to deal with that, to be honest. I'd probably have to use command here to delete duplicates and to reduce the size and clean it up, because you definitely have to go in and find a way to clean those things up. And it may just be that I need to find something that's not cloud attached to the cloud, because the cloud is awesome. Like Google, I use Google Sheets all the time, but you need desktop applications that utilizes your PC's power to be able to manage large files. So just a couple of extra notes there on how to move forward. And, there may be better solutions out there, but Scrapebox is a pretty cheap one compared to some other things I've seen. And I've used it many times in the past to scrape a ton of records. So that's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate your time. I hope you got something out of this, and I will catch you sooner or later. Bye-bye.